Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, October 16th. Today there will be no significant impacts to fire potential, just some breezy winds in the north where fuels are a little bit wetter and down into Utah. But winds pick up on Saturday, especially across parts of the Wasatch into the Uintas and northeast Utah, where gusts will reach 45 miles per hour at times with lower relative humidity and still critical fuels. We will have some breezy winds back west with lower relative humidity below 15% over northeast Nevada, and the fine fuels are probably still very dry. However, some of our other fuel moistures have come up a little bit. We'll also have some gusty winds up north, up in Idaho, but again, fuels are a little bit wetter and relative humidity will be higher with some showers in the central mountains into Wyoming as another cold front drops south and skims the northern areas of the Great Basin. Similar conditions on Sunday in the north, but we will see winds pick up over western and northern Nevada with relative humidity below 15%, but most of those wind gusts should be near or just under 30 miles per hour. Over the last 24 hours, no showers and thunderstorms for the Great Basin, and light initial attack with only a few new smaller fires reported over southern areas. Over the last 7 days with cold fronts, we have had precipitation target mainly the northern areas of the Great Basin, especially central and eastern Idaho, into Wyoming, where that precipitation has been above normal for the time of year. But other areas further south only got lighter amounts of precipitation, which was generally just below normal for the time of year, but still very dry conditions continue over the southern half of the Great Basin. This is where our fuels are still most critical across much of the southern two-thirds of Utah into eastern and southern Nevada, where ERCs are still above the 80th to 90th percentile. Even further west over western and northern Nevada into southern Idaho and this area in the yellow, where ERCs are between the 50th and 70th percentile, these are still very high for the time of year, even though they have come down to lower percentiles. Looking at some of our current maps, you can see up north in Idaho, those ERCs now finally near to below normal as that moisture moved in recently. And then still down south, we're still seeing record ERCs for the time of year. And again, further north up into northern Utah and northern Nevada, we are seeing ERCs above normal for the time of year. Currently, our 10-hour fuel moisture is still most critical over the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin and has certainly come up in northern areas. Looking at our satellite image, you can see a strong ridge of high pressure off the west coast with cold fronts being pushed a little bit further east. They will clip Idaho and Wyoming and northeast Utah, which is again the reason for those gusty winds and any of those showers up north. But most of the Great Basin will remain on the warmer and drier side with above normal temperatures. This pattern looks to continue for the next week. So again, looking at later today, drier conditions in the south and west, and we are seeing that significant fire potential in the moderate range in some of our areas over the southern half of the Great Basin. Again, much wetter up north, and that will be affected by those cold fronts moving down here the next 2 days. So the strongest winds today will be across Idaho and Wyoming with gusts in the 30s and low 40s, but again, higher relative humidity with relative humidity above 25 or 30% up north. We will see some breezy winds starting in the northern Wasatch over into the Uintas, relative humidity around 20%, but those winds will strengthen tomorrow. On Saturday, that cold front again pushes through, so again, still going to see some showers moving into the far north, winds picking up across northern Utah, so we have issued a couple of high-risk areas just for those areas where the fuels are dry and the winds will be fairly strong, above 40 or 45 miles per hour with those low relative humidity. On Saturday, you can see the wind gusts, again, the strongest winds up across the higher terrain of Utah, but still breezy winds over northeast Nevada with some of those lower relative humidity, but fuels aren't quite as critical. But again, in the grasses, an area where we have the grass fine fuel crop, there will be concerns as those winds pick up if we do get some ignitions. And then still some stronger winds further north, but much higher relative humidity across Idaho. On Sunday, similar pattern. Higher humidity and some showers in the north, drier, breezy in the south. No high risk issued on Sunday as these winds should be a little bit weaker. So looking at the winds on Sunday, again, most of these areas in the orange are gusts in the 20s to around 30 miles per hour. We will see those gusty winds pick up over western and northern Nevada. So along the Sierra front, we could see some gusts above 30 miles per hour with relative humidity around 15%. So again, just some areas to watch, especially where we have the fine fuels, or if we do get some starts, we will see some breezier, dry conditions with some warm temperatures. Forecast amounts of precipitation for the next 3 days. Anything associated with cold fronts will remain up into central and eastern Idaho and Wyoming, with much of the heavier precipitation further north into northern Idaho, Montana, and then further east into Wyoming. On Monday, this pattern remains. That cold front shifts off to the east, so we will see some drier conditions up across Idaho, but still that general northwest flow warmer, drier conditions in the south with generally above normal temperatures across Nevada and Utah and the Arizona Strip. Similar pattern on Tuesday, you will continue to see some drying on our significant fire potential map up across northern Utah, northern Nevada, and into southern Idaho, kind of getting back into that yellow and brown as we continue with these dry, warm conditions through at least the mid to late portion of next week. No changes in precipitation. Any of that precipitation here will fall over the weekend in the far north with the cold fronts. And then looking at our 8 to 14 day outlook from October 23rd to the 29th, we will see continued dry conditions, and any cold fronts will likely bring any cooler temperatures to northern and eastern sides of the Great Basin. Will still remain warmer, kind of under some high pressure as we get later in the month across the far west. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.